What's going on, YouTube? This is Power Tycoon, and I'm going to talk to you guys about this NGP versus 3DS, you know, this whole, pretty much PSP2. And I'm going to talk about that first. So I'm going to get right into it. So we have this next generation portable, as Sony likes to call it, and basically it's pretty much a PS3 in your hands. I mean, just PS3 just right here. It's pretty much all it is, to me at least. It seems like that's what Sony's kind of advertising it as. I mean, you have your D-pad, your 4 buttons, and now you have your 2 analog sticks, and obviously shoulder buttons. So, I mean, it's pretty much a PS3 on the go. The graphics are definitely the equivalent to that of the PS3. You have a camera facing the player and a camera facing outwards, kind of like a DSi. So, might see some augmented reality games on it. Might be used as a camera to record shit. I don't know. You have a touchscreen, and you have this touch panel thing on the back. And this is a big what the fuck for me, because you have 2 analog sticks, you have your shoulder buttons, your D-pad, and your regular diamond button layout. That's a lot of input right there. That's enough. Why do you need to go about with this touchscreen and touch panel on the back? I mean, I guess touchscreen's becoming pretty much a standard these days, you know, with the DS, and then it kind of carried over to smartphones and stuff, and now I guess it's just expected of people to have a touchscreen, which is funny because I recall Sony and, well, mostly Sony and Sony fanboys, you know, saying the DS was such a gimmick, no one needs a touchscreen, no one wants to play games with a touchscreen, it's the dumbest thing ever. And now you have Sony just slapping it on. I mean, you look like a hypocrite, for real. So, there's that. Oh, right. They got rid of the UMDs. So, they're doing something else for backwards compatibility, I'm guessing. But, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because UMDs kind of drained the battery life because it took a lot of power to spin the disc. So I can see that. Now they're switching over to pretty much SD cards, SD card looking things. It makes sense. Extended battery life. Good for them on that. Let's see. Great visuals, 2 analog sticks, touch stuff. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously it has other functions and features, pretty much a multimedia device like the original PSP was. But, I mean, that's really losing its shine, seeing as how all these smartphones do more than that, and we're seeing the 3DS has a lot of different features as well. And there's, oh, here we go. 2 versions of this NGP. There's going to be the 3G and one without 3G. And I can see why you did that, kind of. I mean, one without 3G is obviously going to be cheaper, but if the 3G was so awesome and so good, why did you go ahead and make a version without it? I mean, it seems kind of weird to me. Like, it'd be like if Nintendo created 2 versions of the 3DS and one didn't have 3D, it'd be like, okay, what the fuck was the point of that? Now, I mean, I don't know. It looks like it's going to be hard for Sony to sell the 3G version if they're making a version without it, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I guess that's a nice little touch. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm like pretty sure you do have to pay for 3G. And that's probably the main reason why, but you should have just had 3G versions and you could have just turned it on or off. I don't know. So, okay, pretty much covered the NGP. Now we're going to 3DS. 3D obviously being the main thing with this. And so, let's see here. It has 3D. They added a little analog slide pad thing, whatever the hell they're calling it. Basically, it's just one little analog nub, and I mean that's good considering the graphics were kind of upped on 3DS. So now it's kind of necessary. A lot of people wondering why they didn't go with 2 analogs, and I mean, 3DS doesn't really need it. It really doesn't, because between the analog slide pad and the touchscreen, you can pretty much get kind of a dual analog feel out of that. So it doesn't really need two analogs. It's sharing a lot of stuff with the DSi, the camera facing the player, and then it has two cameras outwards for 3D pictures, and hopefully with firmware updates, 3D videos, which I think is pretty cool. Although on a 0.3 megapixel camera, it's not going to be too impressive, but it'll still be, it's a nice feature. Obviously, play games. 3DS is backwards compatible, perfectly backwards compatible with all your DS games, so even if for some reason 3DS sucks, you still get to play all your DS games on it. It's going to have a virtual console. That's going to be awesome. Play all your Game Boy Color games. That's going to be pretty cool. We're really seeing Nintendo taking a step forward as far as power goes, as far as online goes. I mean, they're still friend codes, but it's just 3DS friend codes, not friend code for each fucking game, which was really annoying. It really was. And obviously the up in graphics, not as good as NGP, obviously, but I mean, they're still good, and the 3D is going to add on to that. That's going to be nice. And I mean, it's going to play 3D movies, still listen to music and stuff. I mean, pretty much all handheld devices are starting to go multimedia direction. Like, you can't just, oh, this just makes phone calls, oh, this just plays games. Everything's kind of tapping a little bit into everything. Pretty much, we're going to get to the point where everything's like a computer. We're just heading there. So, I mean, it's a great step forward for Nintendo to be able to play a game, pause, surf the internet, go back to your game. Street Pass mode, that's going to be really cool. Just be walking around with the 3DS, and even if you're playing a different game, a game you don't have in, communicates with another 3DS, and shit happens, and it sounds really fun. It really does. So that's going to be really cool. Seeing your game update and kind of do stuff even when you don't have the game in there. It's going to be really nice. So that's the main stuff. Now, what it's really going to boil down to here is pricing. Definitely. It's going to boil down to price. 3DS already established itself at $250, with games being $40 to $50, which is perfectly reasonable, if you ask me. Like, I know when the $250 price was announced, everyone was like, oh my god, that's too much for a handheld, that's so stupid. Nintendo should have done like $150. And I was like, no, for all the shit it does, $250 is perfectly reasonable. And development costs going up, $40 to $50 for a handheld game is not ridiculous. It really isn't, especially if you look at the quality of these games coming out. So, I mean, I don't know, I think it's priced reasonably, fairly well. Now, with this NGP, I don't know, man. It's looking like PSP versus DS all over again, where PSP, it looked a lot better, you know, had better specs, graphics, and all that good stuff, but I think it's just going to be through the roof on price. I mean, through the roof. I'm guessing this NGP is going to be anywhere from $300 to $400. That's my guess. Don't go writing home about that, but it definitely will be more than 3DS. I guarantee you that. I guarantee it. There's no way Sony's going to make that thing for $250. It's going to be at least $300. I'm guessing more of $350 to $400. I'm guessing that'll be the initial launch price. And the games for it, I mean, these graphics and stuff rival PS3, and development costs have to be ridiculous as well. I'm guessing the game prices will be $50 to $60. Again, that's not fact. Don't go run and tell all your friends. But that is my guess, judging by how the games look, the fact that it's pretty much a PS3 on the go. I mean, that's pretty much how it's looking to me. And I think the price is going to turn away a lot of people. And definitely, I think the only people that are really going to pick up this NGP at launch are your hardcore Sony fans, or just your really geeky, dorky people that like to hack stuff, which I like to do. It's pretty fun. Try it sometime. But I mean, I think just Sony fans and tech-savvy people are just going to pick this thing up at launch, and that's about it. I mean, it's going to be hard to reel in, you know, other people. And it's seriously looking like DS versus PSP all over again, and we all know how that went. I'm really concerned about this NGP's software support, because I mean, compared to the DS, the PSP just didn't have too much going for it. There's a few great games that came out on PSP, there's no denying that, but it just wasn't really enough to justify the purchase. Whereas if you picked up the DS, there was a shit ton of games where you're like, oh, that looks great, let me play it. Oh, I want to play this game. This game looks awesome. I mean, obviously not graphically wise compared to PSP, but the gameplay, the games, the DS just had games, like, out the ass. It was awesome. Oops, kicked the table. Anyways, so that's my whole take on this thing, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but honestly, it's just looking the same. We're seeing a less powerful handheld versus more powerful handheld, and if you look at video game history, the most powerful console loses. It seriously does. Like, we'll take a look at, yeah, let's start with the 64. 64 versus PlayStation 1. 64 was more powerful. The PlayStation 1 beat the 64. PlayStation 2 versus GameCube. PlayStation 2 was less powerful than GameCube. A lot of you people don't know that for some reason. I really don't know why. But PS2 was less powerful than GameCube. PS2, it got the third-party support. It had a bunch of games. Beat the GameCube. I mean, GameCube still had great games. But PS2 won. And now we're seeing this PlayStation 3 versus Wii. Wii is obviously weaker, but it's winning out against the PS3, DS, PSP, same story, and I doubt it's going to change with this NGP versus 3DS. I could be wrong, but it's highly unlikely. Take a look at video game history, and it just supports my theory that 3DS will beat NGP. I mean, pretty plain and simple. But I will definitely be picking up a 3DS. I might get an NGP if I see some shit that interests me. Something like a Monster Hunter for it, that would definitely probably get me to pick it up. But I don't know. It's not too intriguing right now. Oh right, the games, launch games. Pretty much are the same. They're getting ports and remakes, both of them. So you can't really judge a console by its launch lineup because it always sucks for some reason. So we'll have to wait like 6 months to a year before we can judge the games. Alright. Yep, I think that's about everything I want to cover. Pile Talking out.